we have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at purelyarsenalfp for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another episode of a Sit Down at a Purely Arsenal podcast. We're a little late this week. I apologise, but I'm joined by two fantastic guests. First of all, got Neil Shah with me. How are you doing, Neil?
I'm good, thank you, Jack. How are you?
Terrific, mate. 6 wins on the bounce. Just keep my fingers crossed, getting very sweaty palms time and all that. But let's chat about it in a second. I've also got a new guest, been chatting to him on Twitter for a long time. Adam Keys, goes by Adam Keys _ Did I get that right? You're at, Adam?
You did, yes. Thanks for having me, Jack.
Top man. How long have you been an Arsenal fan? Long time, Bob, I presume.
A long time. 27 years.
Yep, you're there.
So, yeah, first game in 2001.
Oh, yeah. It's first game went to for 27 years. Yeah, I'm right about there with you. Neil's coming up to half a century. We won't go over the years, will we? But we are here to review a 4-1 thumping of once Crystal Palace, Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace, not anymore, unfortunately, and they deserved the thumping for that. Let's be honest. But it was a big game, a huge game, especially after the disappointment in midweek, which maybe we'll touch on a little bit. I'll go to Adam first. Adam, just before we touch on the game, sometimes we talk a little bit about the lineup. Did you have any questions that Rob Holding would be the one to come in for Saliba once we knew he was injured? And secondly, touch on a little bit your thoughts on the 2 injuries that we lost in midweek. Tomiyasu, obviously now we know he's a season-ending injury, and Saliba, we don't really know anything at this point, but I'm making the assumption, touching wood, that no news is good news, but maybe that's me being optimistic. What's your thoughts on that, Adam?
And no doubts about Holding coming in for one game. I think one game he can come in. He's shown before big occasions he can do it in one game. After that, I don't want Rob Holding playing all season. That's where I'd start to worry. Even 3 or 4 games, but for one game he can do it. He's all right on the ball. He's no Saliba. He's okay. We know his limitations, but as I say, one game he comes in, he does the job. I think Ben White and Gabriel did a great job kind of readapting to account for Holding, because we know he just likes to attack everything. So it completely changed how we played. But at the same time, I had no doubts that he could do it for one game. And even coming in the odd game, if Saliba was out for Leeds, I could probably deal with that. But I don't want to see him for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure most people are the same.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. And it's Liverpool after Leeds, isn't it? So I can definitely see where you're coming from. Just to go back to you on that, we lost Tomiyasu again. He's had a rotten bit of luck with injuries. Some of them, people say he's injury prone, but this one was pretty bad luck. He did get turned bad, but it looked really nasty on his knee. We don't really know if it's meniscus or a collateral ligament or what it is, but he's done for the season. He's had surgery. How costly do you think that could be?
Pretty costly. I think the big thing is Ben White usually gets hooked after about 70 minutes. And I know I watched Partey a lot at Atletico, and he did play right back quite a bit. So he was used. Simeone loved using him in there. And he can play there, but it's a completely different position to how he's been playing for the last 3 years. And with his injury history, it's those long strides down the line. You don't want to see Thomas Partey putting in sprints in the last 10 minutes. You want him gliding around the pitch, doing what he does, just seeing the game out. So that's a worry if Arteta uses him there. It's just, I think anything that could cause an injury to Partey is a risk. But again, Tomiyasu could have been filling in for Holding. So it's the multiple roles he can fill in. I think that's where it's the kind of the big loss there. He hasn't had a great season, but at the same time, I think he's still a good player. He's still versatile, and it's obviously a loss. You lose a player like that at this point of the season, it's never going to be a good thing. And the same with Saliba. I'm hoping, like you are, that no news is good news, and that this is keeping him away from the front squad. We'll get him fit, and we'll work on him over the international break.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that, really. And it is, you're right, the sorry, I've lived in America too long, multi-position function of Tomiyasu that worries me a lot. And the problem you've got when you move Partey there is he's also someone we'd hook at 70 minutes if games were in game state like this. So then you've got a real problem. And we've seen, that Wenger teams in the past play central midfielders at right back like Coquelin and things like that, and it's worked out pretty well. And I could see that, but like you said, it's not ideal with what we require of our fullbacks is you don't really want Thomas Partey going there late on in game when legs are heavy and things like that. It's not ideal, but I'm just looking at it and I'm not seeing many other options. Neil, going into the game, it was, again, I was a little bit worried. 120 minutes in the legs of a lot of players, heavy legs, not able to rotate maybe as much as we would like because of the injuries. You had to bring on players in midweek that we didn't want to have to bring on. In hindsight, Neil, was the judgment on the Europa League always going to be based off how we did in this game? And now looking back at it after a thumping win, do you look at it and maybe look at the Europa League and go, yeah, maybe we can do without it at this point? Or are you more like, no, I really wanted to go far in Europe?
I'm of the ilk where, I guess what most fans are, I don't like to lose any game. I don't like to go out of any competition. No matter how good you are or whatever the circumstances. But I think this season's slightly different, Jack, Adam. I think it's very of an unexpected position that we find ourselves in to be this ahead of arguably one of the greatest teams in the world at the moment, and with an amazing advantage and pole position to capture a title maybe 2 or 3 seasons ahead of what everyone expected of what Arteta's vision was. And it's not something that comes around often. And, to find ourselves in this position and, we know City are going to be on our tails because they always seem to turn it on last few games or the business end of every season, no matter how many competitions they're in. We're going to have to be winning probably most of the remaining 10. And I just think that it's so important and so vital to capture this title, not only to show all the efforts made this season by all the players, and they've been absolutely amazing. We are the best team. We have been the best team, and that's why we're up there, and the table doesn't lie. But I think it's so significant going forward for the next 3 to 5 years as well. I think getting that title under our belts will be of such a magnitude for all the players and everyone involved, because everyone's played a part. We've been saying that everything has come together at the right time, from the fans to the management to the coaching, everything just seems to be working. And it would be such a disappointment if we just don't get over the line. And I think it's so, it's just so significant that we do that. So I think for the very first time, I was at the last 2 games actually, and then when I left the Lisbon game, honestly, Jack, Adam, as soon as I was at the stadium, I was focused on the Prem. I wasn't, to lose on penalties, that's even worse. It's even worse than just losing a 90-minute match. It's horrible. But I wasn't too worried. I really wasn't. I wasn't too bothered. I know that's a horrible thing to say as a fan, but I just wasn't, because I knew that, Prem, it's coming. If we were fighting for 4th, we were languishing 5th, 4th, 6th, that's different. And of course, then, it's a bitter blow because it's another route to the Champions League, isn't it, in case it doesn't work out.
Yeah, of course.
But I just feel that, especially now with the injuries you guys have just talked about, I think you guys are right about it. But can you imagine if we were still in the Europa League as well? That's where the Holdings of this world, that's where the Tomiyasu's of this world would have been even more vital. So in a way, it's turned out to be a bit of a blessing in disguise. Ironically, that's the game where they both got injured. That's the thing. But, we need, sorry, not Holding, I meant Saliba and Tomiyasu. If we're in more than one competition, you need a bigger squad. We need it even just for the Prem, but even more so if you were in more than one competition. So I think in a way, that's a blessing. I don't get me wrong, always want to win everything, but it's got to be the Prem all day long. Yeah. And that's the Achilles heel or the advantage we have, slight advantage we have over City where they're in 3. and we're just in the one. We've just got 10 games, one at a time, 10 cup finals to focus on. So let's go for it.
Take one at a time, yeah, exactly. The frustration with the injuries is like it's a double whammy because they're two players that basically feel the same position, and that's when you're looking at it going, well, how's our squad look so thin all of a sudden? But it's really where you've been hit twice in one area within a space of about 20 minutes, and it's typical sort of Arsenal way with injuries. But like you said, we would have had Juventus over a 2-leg tie if you consider that we're Sporting at this point in the tie, and then I think Man United in the semi-finals. I mean, those are some tough games, right? For the Europa League, that's really, really tough. So, no, I agree with you. It was a weird game. It felt very much like an Unai Emery game. I felt both ties felt like an Unai Emery game. It felt like a basketball game. Like I was like, we're never really in control. But that's what happens when you change 5 or 6 players in a team, and it's very difficult to do that. To be able to do that and still see the same process, especially when you've got a few players that probably aren't quite to the level that you maybe will see once a team gets into the Champions League and things like that. I think we'll see the squad depth progress once again, so it's quite interesting. But just before we touch on the game, you're going to hate this question. Sambi Lokonga couldn't play in this game, right, because he was on loan. I believe that's why they didn't just drop him. I believe if you loan a player, you can't play him. Adam, you tell me if there's anything different there. But we've had a few players that have played for Crystal Palace in the past. Can you name 3 players that have played for Palace? And can you name 3 where one of them was a loanee? Adam, can you name one? Only one of them needs to be a loanee. The other could be just played from before us, after us. There's one. There's one obvious one there. Yeah, the other 2 came to me while I was watching the game because I was thinking, for some reason, I didn't know if Sambi could be in the squad or not for this one, but I figured he couldn't be. Neil, you got any off the top of your head?
I've got so for both clubs, I've got Eddie McGoldrick.
Yep, that was my other one.
I've got Sonogo.
Now, was Sonogo alone? That's a great answer. If he was, he might well have been. I don't know. I know Sonogo played.
Sure. Adebayor, Flamini.
Yep. Okay. Wow, you're doing very good. I'll tell you what. I'll give you one then. Let me narrow it down. Who's the invincible that played on loan for him?
Okay, so I think
was it Ashley Cole?
Yes, very good. That was the one I was thinking of when I was watching the game. You got a lot though there, Neil, as well. Good job, boys. Well, you got a quick.
I forget Adebayor went to Palace.
But Adebayor, was that way after us? Was it?
Oh, I think it was after. I might be wrong.
Was it after City and Tottenham?
He went to loan, didn't he?
Yeah, whenever.
Yeah.
Oh wow! But Cole played like 15 games from or something in before.
Was that 99-2000?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was before he really sort of came into our team and was just amazing, wasn't he? But I don't know why. I just remember Cole in a Palace shirt for some reason. It was a bit weird. But onto the game, Adam. I was a little bit nervous early on because the holding and midweek, and there was a couple of touchy moments. I thought Ramsdale's save from Zaha was fantastic, to be honest. It might have been one of the key moments of the game. When you look at it, obviously, in the end, it looked like a very simple victory, really. But Adam, just touch on the early point in the game. So crucial sometimes when teams are playing these low blocks to get that first goal, and we got it, didn't we?
Oh yeah, I hammer on about it every week. It's like anyone can play a low block, but very few teams can play it well. And it's like Sean Dyche is the master at it, but you need the players to do it well. It's why Newcastle were so effective. They had 4 big players at the back, well drilled, and anytime we went round the side, they had another big man blocking. Same against Everton. And then, but with Palace, you could just see they're not equipped to play that way. And we had that moment, Holding dives in. You knew the minute the Holding dived in for that challenge, it was one of those, it lifts the crowd, but there's still that huge gap that he's leaving in behind. And you can just see Ben White kind of scuttling back, taking off. And you knew it was going to be Zaha the minute that ball broke. But yeah, great stop from Ramsdale. I don't know if it's luck or because it's Ramsdale or if he kind of flicks that ball with his heels, just because he kind of does that stuff. And but yeah, huge moment in the game, and then obviously getting the goal not long after that. I think the minute that goal went in, the Palace heads dropped, and it was one of those. I text my mate and said, this is one of those, we could lose this 2-1 or we could win it 5-0. It's that kind of game, and it did feel like that, where kind of the first 20 minutes we had loads of chances. We could feel that something was happening. But at the same time, it's Palace. They're one of those teams. We hadn't beaten them for 5 years at the Emirates. And you just know with Zaha, he wants to play for Arsenal. He always has. And it's like every game he plays against us, it's his addition. And I thought Ben White dealt with him really well. Just across the 90, he had a great tackle on him down the line just before their goal. And ball broke to, I think it was Sloop. And it was whenever White came back and hoofed it out of play. But those moments in the game, they were all they were big moments for them. But on the most part, we dealt with them quite well. And then when we got into their half, we were fairly efficient. I think it was 4 goals from 5 shots on target as well. So I think when you look at it statistically, it looked like an easy afternoon. But they did have their moments, and I think overall it's one of those games after 120 minutes midweek, you're glad to get the game over. 3 points, come away, international break, get some of those players wrapped in ice for the next couple of weeks and get ready for Leeds. So overall, the most important thing was 3 points. But again, scoring 4 really helps our goal difference as well. So just a very good afternoon, very enjoyable game to watch as well.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It's one of those games you wish you were at because it looked like the one. Sorry if you can hear my child a little bit screaming in the background. But it's one of those ones where you just feel like you can relax in the last 20, 30 minutes. And we've had a few of those this season. But before that, I mean, I don't remember any of those for many, many a year. And it's really, really nice to see. Neil, touch on this was all about the wingers again. We're doing the numbers halfway through the game on the text. That's Martinelli now with 13 goals, 2 assists. He's our top goal scorer, I believe. To talk about him a little bit, because there was a little bit of a lull when he came back from the World Cup. Obviously, he didn't play that much in the World Cup. Came back, and like many players that didn't play that much in the World Cup for us, Saliba and a few others, he took a little bit of time to get into it. But also what we've seen since Trossard and Jesus come back into the team is Martinelli's just thrived, doesn't he? Again, and with that link up again, where you felt Eddie stayed a bit more central, and now. But in this, really, I mean, it was Xhaka finding him, but he's just looking so on form, Martinelli. He might be our most on form player game in, game out. I want to say that maybe 6 goals in 5 games, maybe. But he just beyond that, even without the goal, he's just looking like an early season Martinelli again, really, isn't he? And it's exciting.
Yeah, no, spot on. His energy levels are incredible, absolutely insane. I agree with you. You had that lull, and I think it is the World Cup hangover for him and Saliba, because Saliba wasn't quite himself when he came back for 2 or 3 games, I'd say. Just quickly touching on Holding, guys. I thought he did a good number on Zaha as well. I thought Holding had a really good game. Adam, I agree with you. I think he's one of those ones, a bit like El Neni. He can come on for 1 or 2 games, maybe, do a job, but not sustained level. But I thought Holding was great. Apart from maybe 1 or 2 errors, I thought he was brilliant, and in some ways, for different reasons, I didn't feel we missed Saliba. But then it's always easy to say that when the rest of the team are doing so well, and then we get a 2-3 goal advantage. But I thought Holding was pretty decent, by the way. But sorry to digress, but going back to Martinelli, I mean, I think he had that lull, and I think you're right. You see, Trossard coming in, whereas before Jesus was on the sidelines, and we had to change it up with Eddie. I think he revels in that Jesus type of player, and Trossard's kind of like that. They can interchange with each other. They've got this kind of understanding between each other, and I think he's kind of liking this mix where the front 3, especially Jesus / Trossard, they're just like, the defenders can't cope. You just don't know where they are. They don't know what they're doing. It's difficult to mark them. It's difficult to understand their positioning, because it's just everywhere. And I think that really suits Martinelli, who's always fixes himself on the line on that side, and then he just manages to drive past defenders, come in, cut in, and do his thing. But I think his energy levels are just ridiculous. His pace, when he's on the ball, is unbelievable. So he can turn a defender left or right, and not many players can do that because of his pace. But also, one thing that I noticed was he defends as well. He helps out defending from the front. And there was one point where we'd lost the ball in an attacking position, and he just came all the way back and recovered it and started recycled it for another attack. And I'm like, wow. And that's something that he didn't used to do before, and he's doing that now. So he's added that to his game. And the goal was magnificent. I mean, Xhaka was great. And again, some work a little bit earlier on from Ben White as well. I thought Ben White and Xhaka were fantastic as well.
Yeah, the second goal was like
their
that,
telepathy and the little kind of weighted passes to Xhaka from White were great. But he did well to receive Saka's ball because he had to kind of reposition himself. He had to move the ball away from his feet. And then what a strike from that angle. Look, reminded me a little bit of Henry because Henry could knock him in from that angle as well quite effectively. But that was unstoppable.
Yeah.
And he was rewarded for his potential disappointment for being the player that missed the penalty that sent us out eventually in the Europa. And you'd think, is that going to cause a hangover for him? Not in the slightest. If anything, it drove him further, gave him more belly in his fire to do well in this game. Magnificent. What a player. And it's nice now, Jack, Adam, that we've got two equally balanced and effective attacking, options on both wings. Whereas before, do you remember the old Arsenal? We might be reliant on either the left or heavily reliant on the right. Now we've got it all over the place.
Yeah.
And the fact that Jesus is back, wow.
Yeah, and we're not having to start him every game. Yeah, it is scary. Yeah, you talk about our defence's injury worries, but going forward, we look and we still don't have Eddie back yet, so we look really, really strong. But actually, the Martinelli goal reminded me a little bit of Arshavin because it was such a short backlift and push out the foot. But that's one thing our wingers have, isn't it? They have the ability to shoot off both sides. I think that's something Arteta's actually really improved on both of them. It looks like they never had the ability to shoot off. But remember, Saka's one against Everton off his right foot, top corner. Martinelli just can ping. I think he's done one against Everton last year at home from his left foot to the bottom corner. Just the ability to shoot off both sides and go left or right is so difficult for a fullback. But like you said, they're just relentless. And if we move on to Saka, Adam, we talk about Saka constantly on this podcast. I've been saying I think he should be PFA Player of the Year, but I've also been saying Odegaard should go back and forth. we all know it's going to get given to the sideboard, so it doesn't really matter. But he's up there. And the reason with Saka is sometimes we have one or two quiet games, but unlike other players, maybe even like Martinelli, I never worry it's a confidence thing with Saka. I'm like, you can have a couple of quiet games because when the next big game, a big moment comes along, you'll score a couple and it'll be fine and you'll be back. And it's not like he's having bad games either. He's just not necessarily being, on the highlight reel, but he's an unbelievable talent. I think he's going to be possibly the best young talent that's ever come through the academy, Adam. I don't think I'm sort of, overstating it at that point. What do you think?
No, 100%. I was thinking about this yesterday as I was driving home, just like where he ranks in comparison to Wilshere, because like when Wilshere broke through, just like the performance at Barcelona, but he was doing that every week. And he was, 18 playing centre mid as well. So it's probably the most demanding position on the pitch. And Jack was doing that at such a young age. And he was physically ready as well. In the same way as Saka is, he was being kicked left, right and centre. He got the ball, someone was on him straight away and he never looked phased. Saka is exactly the same. And like what you were saying about going left and right, I think that's his biggest asset. And the goal the other day, Saka's right foot, Martinelli's left foot. So it is that combination of the two wingers. If you're a fullback, you look at both of them and it's kind of show them in on their stronger foot. Naturally, you're thinking, like, let Saka go outside, let him go every time. He's now got White overlapping on his right. He can also play it on his right as he showed. Same with Martinelli. It's like, don't let him cut inside. He didn't want to cut inside this time. A couple of years ago, he would have been looking to cut in the minute he got that ball. There's a slight feint to go inside, but it's straight out in his left, and he hits that so fast. As you say, the short backlift. A couple of years ago, Martinelli wouldn't have done that. I don't think Saka would have crossed it with his right either. Again, I think he would have been looking to get that onto his left, or he would have played the pass. But he's just so dangerous every week. And I think he's one of those, I talk about him on Twitter after every game. And I think the reason why is, like you say, even when he has a quiet game, you're not worried about it. And his quiet game is still probably a 7 out of 10. He doesn't do anything wrong. He protects his man. He's given his midfielders that option. He's supporting his striker. He's doing everything you would ask of him. He's just not kind of the man that's kind of taking the moment. And that's just so unusual for a 21-year-old. And even the biggest thing in Saka's game for me that probably goes unnoticed the most is when he cuts inside and he literally just kind of like barges past his man, just uses his weight, he drops that shoulder, he gets so low to the ground, and you just can't shake him. And he's getting players double his size, and it looks so effortless. Just pops it off on his left and he's straight off again. And those little things are just, you can't coach them. Well, Arteta clearly can, but it's just like such fine details in his game that I've never seen a winger so young do. And when I watch other wingers, the only one that I see doing the things Saka is Vinicius. And
yeah,
I think one of the differences in the two of them at the minute is just how clinical Vinicius is. But a couple of years ago, he wasn't. And Benzema had that famous thing where he said he was playing against them. But Saka's now doing those things that Vinicius is. And he's not as flashy. He's probably more efficient in his kind of build-up play than Vinicius is. But that's the level of player that he's aiming to get to. And with his numbers this season, I think next season we're going to see him hitting 20 plus.
Yeah.
So I think he's got the potential to be the best player in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's amazing.
So yeah, it's one of those. We could do a pod just talking about how great Saka is.
That's what we do in the summer. We just do pods on players. That's what we do.
So yeah, it's like, I'm sure I've seen the nodding away as I'm saying this, and it's just it's a pleasure having a player like him, and I think the fact he loves Arsenal as well. It's just he's such a likable character. On top of everything else, it's impossible not to watch him and love him. And I think when he scores as well, it like hits differently to other players. It's just because you can tell it means so much every time he pulls on an Arsenal shirt, and it shouldn't matter, but it does.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see. It's so good. And he's the first player in the league to get double figures for goals and assists this season. I think is he 12 and 10 now after those two? I think he might be 12 and 10. Yeah, so he's 12 goals, 10 assists. It's always nice when you've got 2-3 players that are competing for top goal scorer in a team. I think we've got 3 in the top 10 for goal scorers and maybe 3 to 4 for top assist makers, with Trossard from what he got for Brighton, and now doing absolutely fantastic things for us, which is incredible. And obviously it's so polar opposite to what City have with one player largely getting a large proportion of all their goals, and we'll see who comes out on top with that. But I love what we have in terms of the ability to be able to get output from so many different areas. It's so hard to defend against, I think, and it's such a fantastic thing to watch when you can see players like this and you're not sure where it's coming from, and you feel you're so strong on both sides. But just lastly on Saka, I just think he's so strong for his size. If you look, I was watching, there's a clip going around of I think the Premier League posted a clip of just Saka's goals over the last couple of years, and the amount his physical development has been since even the start of last year, just in terms of his just physicality and his muscle development, is insane for a 21-year-old. I mean, his legs are just so strong, such a strong player, and we need him. We really need him in this big part of the season. Jesus said this is the best part of the season, and you need your best players in the best part of the season. So I just hope Southgate's not a complete plonker and playing him every minute while he sits Kane in the stands. I can't stand seeing him over there. I know
he was. I don't know if you saw it, Jack, but he was after and much of the day he was interviewed. He came on the interview for quite a while actually, before they went into the analysis.
I heard. I didn't see it though. Yeah.
And Keown kind of made a thing. He said, "I'll have to have a word with Southgate. Don't want him playing every minute." And so he says, "I'll have words with Southgate." It's quite funny actually. But to be fair, he was echoing probably what every Arsenal fan was thinking anyway. But he is remarkable. Sorry, just to quickly interrupt, and I apologise, guys, but the fact that he's so strong, he needs to be, because he always gets hacked down by 2 or 3 opponents on him all the time, and he just keeps getting back up. And Adam, you made such a good point about the ability of Saka and Martinelli learning to use what arguably is their weaker foot, and they can just not having to waste time now trying to get on their stronger side, because that's made such a massive difference to us. Because if you remember when we had Pepe, he would always try and move over to his left foot, and that those vital 3 or 4 seconds were always costly because the opposition read what he did, and it was just too predictable. Now, these two guys, wow, it's just too fast. It's too fast.
Yeah, and the only way that works is if you're like the best in the world at it, like Arjen Robben, right? Like he only went on his left, but he literally was so hard to stop, like Messi almost as well. But when you've got, as a winger, you really want to be able to go by. And Everton goal is the perfect example with Xhaka, because he could have easily just flipped and turned onto his left foot, but he didn't. He just walked on his right and just smashed it into the top corner. Leeds away, same thing, just smashed it. You know, he's so confident on both sides now. Xhaka, he's just such a great player. I just can't believe we've got him. But he's fantastic. But the second goal, like you said, I mean, it was a brilliant little interchange between Ben White. It looks so simple when you watch it back, but it's just such a good way to pass from White. And Saka's got this sort of he's recreating this Henry celebration as his own almost, which is fantastic. Unless we're playing United and he'll do Rashford's celebration. But at that point, at 2-0, it really feels good. You know, I was watching, I was like, getting up, you know, and 2-0 just makes you feel a lot more comfortable, especially at home. It felt really, really good going in at 2-0. And then I'm trying to remember the second half. We, just to touch on, I think we scored before they did. But Neil, do you have a little bit of concern with set pieces? We conceded again from a set piece. Arteta looked really annoyed on the bench cam with it and stuff like that. I mean, I wasn't worried because I think it was 3-0 at the time, so it went a 3-1. But we have a little bit of a concern there. Do you think it's got anything to do with the fact we're, you know, having to change the back line and injuries, or do you just think we're switching off at key moments? What do you think? Because before that we had a terrific record for goals and defensive displays over set pieces. What do you think's changed?
I don't know, because we did on both counts. You're absolutely right. We had that guy come in, the coach come in, and he completely turned us around, didn't he? We were scoring from corners, which we weren't was quite a rare thing, and then also defending them was brilliantly, literally. And all of a sudden now it seems to have reverted and gone back to a weakness almost, or an Achilles heel for us. It is a concern because, in that game it didn't, and it ended up being academic. You know, it wasn't significant. Luckily, mind you, Zaha almost got a second, which that was worrying. Could have made things a little bit squeaky bum time if that had gone in.
That was Partey's fault, wasn't it? From what I remember. Yeah. I think so. But it is a bit of concern when you look at it that way. I mean, again, in another situation, it didn't matter. And then I think we're always going to, against Palace and the way we were playing, even if they had sneaked that second goal in, I still think we would have gone on and scored a fourth and won anyway. But against a Man City or a Liverpool away or a Newcastle away, you know, it's a slightly different ball game. I have no idea why this happened. I don't know what. I'm sure Arteta's going to get the coach hammering some more information into them and looking at what happened, what went wrong. But it could be, you're right, it could be a bit of both. It could be that we're just switching off, maybe because we were so see, that's the thing. When a team is in such command, does a little bit of complacency creep into everyone's minds and think, they're not going to do anything, we'll be fine. And all of a sudden, it was very, very messy, their goal, really messy. Yeah, but did you see Ramsdale wasn't happy about it because he loves his clean sheets. Even if we were winning 9-0 and we conceded, we wouldn't be happy about it, which is a trait I like to see. But we've got to make sure it doesn't happen, or at least make them score a good goal to think that, all right, hands up, we know that was a great goal. There's nothing much you can do about it. But to give away scruffy goals like that, I'm a little bit worried, not too much, a little bit worried. But I don't know whether it's a combination of change of personnel, switching off, complacency, or whether that coach has just got to drill in some more stuff into them. I don't know. But it's not affecting us at the minute too much, but it could be significant with the last 10 games coming up. Yeah, with harder games coming up. Yeah, I have a little worry. I hope, obviously, Saliba, because mind you, Holding's very good from set piece. I didn't really look at it as it was just sloppy. Yeah, just sloppy, really. But Adam, thoughts on that?
Do you think it's confidence? Rather than complacency, do you think in the same way, like anything, you get into the habit of, you just become so efficient in your defending with set pieces, everyone knows the role, and then suddenly you concede from a couple like we did, because it's been now, 3 months where we've conceded quite a few from corners after not conceding for so long. Do you think it creates that like uncertainty within the group So just in the sense that everyone knew their job for so long and everyone was so comfortable with each other, it went from that to suddenly there's just that like little bit of doubt in everyone's heads. And then that could be the issue rather than complacency.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, it's like goals come in clusters for players. We were just talking about Martinelli. Yeah. It's the opposite of it. I think, yeah, you definitely could be onto something there. And hopefully, you know, what we need from that is 1 or 2 games without it, just to build the confidence up again. But we had a game recently where they were pummeling us from corners. I can't remember if it was Bournemouth at home or where it was, but they were having corner after corner in a row, and we kind of managed to see it out. But yeah,
I mean, we've had at the last of the 6 wins, we've had 3 clean sheets, have we not?
Yeah, I think the issue at the Emirates, we really struggle to keep clean sheets. Which is interesting.
We're really better away, aren't we? Which is the weird thing.
Yeah. Which is well, our record is amazing away as well, points total, etc. But yeah, our clean sheets we do. I do think we let the handbrake off a little bit more at home though. We really try to suffocate the team and press higher, and you know, whereas away from home, obviously they have to come out a little bit more, plays into our hands a little bit, right? And the gaps appear. So I think I can understand why it's a little bit more difficult to keep a clean sheet at home. But probably the goal of the game, and Neil, I'll go back to you, Adam, was Xhaka one, and Xhaka was fantastic. I've been a big critic of Xhaka, but in the past, not this season. But he was fantastic. The goal, and there's a video going around of Zinchenko and Xhaka's interchange before the goal, and it's almost like that. You know, they're both at left back and both at central midfield at the same time. They're just constantly, which is so hard to defend against. And Trossard also plays his part there in that goal, I believe. But it's a really lovely move. It's only sort of shut down by it's looking a little bit of a dodgy finish as he falls over, but it's a great goal. Neil, it's probably the goal of the game team wise.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? A lovely 1-2 between Trossard and Xhaka. It really was. I can't stop thinking how good a signing Trossard is becoming to be. It's unbelievable, is it not? To
6 assists, 1 goal since arriving, I think it is for Arsenal, is it?
Yeah, like but it's just what he's given. It's, you know, it's hard. I've always found the January signings not to be as potent or significant as obviously the summer ones. Number one, there's less time. And number 2, a lot of players might be settled in a club, and do they really want to be changing halfway through a season? But now and again, you find a gem, and Trossard is just, his levels is ridiculous. And, you know, to find the space, initially to get into the space to collect Xhaka's first pass to him, and then to see the space to thread it through for Xhaka to go in and score. It's just magnificent. I love the guy. He's amazing. I'm so pleased James was advocating him from the start and championing him, and it's spot on with it. Absolutely gives us so much more. And you know, he filled in nicely when we needed him. He's just perfect. And I think I said this last time. I think he's undroppable at times. You know, you can't not play him. He's just too good. And Xhaka, yeah, I mean, I think, you know what, that game where we didn't start him for the first time in God knows how long, I think it really did him the world of good, because I felt that he was slightly dropping off what we'd come to expect from him in the first half of the season. Then remember there was that 2 or 3 games, a bit like Saliba, it just dropped off slightly, and I thought he's not playing at that level anymore. And then suddenly he was rested for that one game. I can't remember which game it was. We didn't start him. And from then, he seems to have almost like he's rejuvenated, and he's doing what we've come to expect. He's as you talked about, the link-up play and the way they're interchanging with Zinchenko, who isn't a light left-back, who's the most unorthodox left-back ever in the history of the game.
He's reframing the whole position.
Well, he's just reductified the role, isn't he? It's like
amazing, isn't he?
As you spoke about on the last pod, Jack, it's just evolutionary football. It's just ridiculous.
It's incredible.
And so he's got a great understanding with him. But then, you know, to find himself in those positions in the box where he can do the damage. I mean, he's scored 6 goals this season. Doesn't sound a lot, but when you've got, as you said earlier, again, contributions from all over the park, those 6 goals are very important.
Yeah.
And, you know, seasons gone by, we wouldn't have had that option. because we just have the players capable or have the players at that level to understanding the positioning, where they need to be. It's a bit like Saka. I know, sorry, I'm going a bit ahead, but it's a bit like Saka. He's like that. His second goal, he's in the middle of the park. And it's just that understanding of where the need to be, and almost like from an instinct point of view. And we just seem to have that in abundance in this team. Every single player knows their roles, know what they need to do. And I think they've just got that sixth sense as well of understanding each other, the awareness of where everyone is, where to be to collect a ball and a pass. It's just working so well. But hats off to Xhaka and Trossard. So impressed with both of them.
Yeah, thoughts on Xhaka, Adam? I've been very up and down with him over the years, but he's got proper character. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think we both have. It's probably how we first started talking on Twitter all those years ago. But it's I think to your very first point, the goal itself starts with Zinchenko throwing the ball to Xhaka. And then I think there's 14 passes before he finishes it. And it's like, it's that team play, that understanding. Nearly everyone's involved in the build-up. And I thought he was brilliant on Saturday. Completely agree with Neil about his rest. It just gave him a lift. I don't know if he was getting heavy legs or what it was, because the thing is, he's 30, almost 31. He's playing left 8 now, where he's always been that deep player where he's covering less ground. He's getting up and down that pitch. He's getting into the box. He's covering a lot of ground every game. So asking a 24-year-old to readapt, no problem. It's just kind of getting the reading of the game, the understanding into your head. With Xhaka, he's got all the understanding of the game. It's literally getting the physical side. His body's completely changed over the last year. And I'll be honest, in the summer, I was looking at it and thinking, I'd love Yuri Tielemans in there. We need someone that's kind of better in the final third, or someone that's more athletic. And I wouldn't want Tielemans at Arsenal now. I don't think he's got the legs. I think he's got the creativity, and he's someone that, don't get me wrong, if you're 2-0 up at home, having a player that with that creativity to bring on, great. But that's the extent I would see him offer in Arsenal right now. I think the bar's been lifted, and Xhaka's moved with that bar. It's something I honestly never thought I would say this, that he's been one of the best midfielders in the Prem this season. No doubt. It's just insane. And to Neil's point about Trossard, he's one of those players, he makes me smile watching him play. It's just, I've watched a lot of Brighton over the last 18 months, and I thought I knew what we were getting with Trossard, but I didn't think he'd be this good. I knew he was going to be good, but he just seems to have there was an instant connection with everyone, and Odegaard's talked about it as well, just how quickly he settled in, and it's insane. It's just, what a signing.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's starting to eradicate my feeling on the number 9 position. You know, we talked about, sometimes we do like what will we do? What's the next squad development part of this? And some people have said, you need the plan B. And maybe we do still need that, but he's showing he's a real option at number 9 or false 9, which I don't think any of us truly thought when we knew he'd played there, but I don't know if we really thought, oh yeah, he's going to be he's going to be the player to come in if Jesus is not playing, or even give him some time out. He's genuinely looking like he could play anywhere across that front three, which is amazing for the price that we've got him for, and the fact that he's hit the ground running is just incredible. But on Xhaka, I don't really know what to say about the left 8 anymore, because left 8 I've been talking about improving for about 2 years, and now when people ask me, I'm just like, I don't know, just keep doing what I'm doing. It looks like the coaching's working, so he's doing fantastic there. And then you also think in the squad, we don't really know what the goal is for Smith Rowe or Vieira, and whether that's an option. So I don't really know what to say on the left end anymore. When people mention people like Tielemans and other players to me, I'm like, I'll just trust in what Arteta's doing, to be honest, because I'll trust in whatever he says now about that position, because he's clearly seeing stuff that none of us were, which is amazing. But Xhaka, I've obviously just gained so much respect for him, really. I mean, I lost a little bit with the things that went on that we don't need to run back over him. But just in terms of his consistency to be on the pitch is incredible. I mean, the guy played I think he played 120 minutes in midweek. He basically plays every minute that is available to Arteta to play him. He's always the player that you drop into those mixed lineups because you need the experience in there. He's always that midfielder that you drop in and you know you can play him again 3 days later. And for a club like Arsenal that gets, has been hit by injuries quite a lot over the years, that's really important, to have that consistency, I think. And I think sometimes we downplay that and we don't talk about it enough, just the fact that you can always rely on Granit Xhaka to be there. And there was a touchy moment in this game where you felt he buckled his knee, which was very similar to what he did last year when he was out for a few months, which was one of the only sort of big injuries he's had at Arsenal. But I'm sitting there thinking, oh gosh, Granit Xhaka's down and hurt. And a couple of years ago, I'd be sitting there going, okay, yeah, I probably wanted to go on the bench to come on anyway. And I'm literally going, oh, get up, Xhaka, and that's credit to. He improved so much. It's been fantastic. But what was your thoughts on Neil? We've been discussing Kieran Tierney quite a lot on this podcast, and I do think still that he will leave in the summer, and I don't put that down to him. I think it's just the way the squad's evolved. But I thought he had a really good cameo appearance. He had assist. He looked like he was really up for it for these sort of 20 minutes that he came on. I think it might have had something to do with the fact that he came on earlier. We've been bringing him on for the last sort of 5-10 minutes a game sometimes, and I can see he's kind of like, game's done or game state or whatever, but he gave him a little bit more time here. And I think it was important because you just never know if you're going to need him in this last 10 games, right? I saw that with Rob Holding, for instance. But it was encouraging, wasn't it? And you can never question his attitude, can you, Neil?
Absolutely brilliant. Last 2 cameos, he hasn't done anything wrong. And what a delight, because I love Tierney. I always did. I wanted him to be captain, like quite a few others, just simply because of his attitude. And then all of a sudden, Zinchenko just comes and throws the rule book out the window and does what he does. And that's nothing, no reflection, as you said, on Tierney. None at all. If Zinchenko wasn't in, look, Tierney could probably walk into most other Premiership teams, and as a starting 11, without a doubt. And to be honest, from what I've seen in the last couple of cameos, I've kind of changed my mind a bit. I think I was completely with you about that. Probably for his benefit, he needs to move on because the lad wants and deserves first team football. But I would find him now a bit of a miss because, as well, especially now for these 10 games, we need everyone we've got. We need everyone, because you just never know. Football's a funny old game, as old Greaves used to say, and it's unexpected. You have to expect the unexpected, and things could happen, which then we need to call on other players, which we've got in the squad. That's why championship-winning teams have squads. But I think even beyond that now, because there's no doubt in my mind, well, number one, we're going to win the league, but number two, we're also going to be, as a virtue, we're going to be in the Champions League. And if we don't, I think there's a feeling, especially from you and James, Jack, that I think he's going to buy maybe 3 or 4 players, at least more players in the summer to bolster the squad even further. And one of them may have been a cover for Zinchenko, because the likelihood is if Tierney wants first team football, again, don't blame him. Newcastle are crying out for a player in his position. That could be the likely destination for where he goes. But I put on a personal level, I'm not so sure I want him to go, because just based on those 2 cameos, and I know it takes a lot more than that, but if we're going to be playing in Champions League, Premiership, trying to fight on all fronts, we need the depth. And he's already there. He already knows the team. He already knows the club. He knows the players around him. And I don't think he did too bad. But again, we need to see more of that to make a better assessment. But on my head is saying still that he'll go. Because,
I think so.
I think for his benefit, he'll go.
Yeah.
But a great assist anyway. I just wanted to say what an assist.
And we need him to the
brilliant, but great assist.
Yeah, lovely instinctive finish again. It's just what you come to expect. What do you think on Adam? Anything to add on on Tierney, Adam?
I think Neil hit all the points, I would say. I want Tierney to stay. I love Kieran Tierney. I think he's just he's just an old school footballer. And it'd be a real shame to lose him. I honestly think not being picked against Sporting, that's kind of that for Kieran Tierney will be saying, yes, we might have Champions League next season, boys picked Zinchenko ahead of me in a game when Zinchenko's played all the minutes in the Prem. I think had he have been picked on Thursday night, Arteta might have been able to say, look, you're going to get the Champions League minutes. If Zinchenko gets injured, you're going to come in.
Yeah.
But actually, Tomiyasu played against Liverpool, which was a great move. But Tomiyasu's played left back a couple of times and not done well. And again, I think look, in terms of attitude, you can't fault Kieran Tierney. He gives everything, and his head doesn't seem to have dropped. I imagine he still trains as hard as anyone at the club. You just know by the way he plays, the way he conducts himself, he doesn't have another level that he drops to. He's not going to be an Aubameyang that something goes wrong, so he goes to half pace. Yeah. He's a natural leader, and it'll be a real shame to lose him. But I think it's a case of, for his own benefit, he's probably going to have to go. And I think Neil's right. Newcastle need a player in that position. And for us, I would like to think we can hold firm and get about 50 million for him, because he's worth it. If we're selling to a rival, we can't do what City did with Zinchenko. We got Zinchenko cheap, but Tierney's played a lot more minutes than Zinchenko did at City. And I know Zinchenko won things, but Tierney was one of our most important players and was a real standout in that position. So whereas Zinchenko wasn't, no matter what anyone will tell you, City fans loved him, but he was like a cult hero there, whereas Tierney was our best player for a long time. So we have to hold out for a good fee there. And with it being a new rival, they've got loads of money. So you're getting someone that you know exactly what you're going to get. And he's a proper modern fullback. Zinchenko's not a left back. You can't say that's the new modern fullback.
He's a cheat code.
Yeah, because you can only have that player if you've got a great team. Everyone needs to cover for him. Big Gabby plays two positions. Yeah, because Zinchenko's just all over the park. So, but yeah, I agree completely with Neil about Tierney. Great player, great cameo the other day, and it's going to be a real shame to lose him. But I just don't see how we can keep him, and just for the players' happiness.
Yeah, you're like James, who comes on our podcast. You're optimistic on the fees. I'm pessimistic on the fees. I said 35 million for Tierney, and to be honest, anywhere between those two numbers, I would be satisfied. But I am so fascinated. I mean, I like Tierney, but I've seen it as the season's progressed, and like you said, I've seen Arteta be more and more reluctant to replace Zinchenko because of but basically our football's so unique when we've got him on the pitch, and it's so hard to mimic that. But I am fascinated by who he gets in when he lets Tavares and Tierney go, which I believe is going to happen. I'm really fascinated by who he gets in, because in my head I'm looking at like a young version of Cancelo, a right-footed fullback that plays at left back, that can invert but can also play right back. I'm making that assumption, but I have no idea who that could be. I mean, we've been linked to Fresneda. He looks very good. I don't know a lot about him, to be honest, but I've watched his clips and he looks very good. But Pepe looks good in a highlight reel, so what are you going to say? So but I just, I'm so fascinated by it. That position probably more than any. I'm so curious where he goes with it. And now we trust him in the transfer market, him and Edu. I'm pretty relaxed about it, to be honest, but we do need to sell better. That's really important. So that would be a good starting point, though frustrating obviously to lose him. Great 4-1 win, 6 wins on the bounce, which is our best run so far this season in terms of wins. Hopefully we can make it 7. It's in a way it's quite nice to have the break, because it's as a fan it's I don't know about you, but by the time it hits Thursday I'm a mess anyway. Sporting game, forget about the sporting game. I was just a mess about thinking about the weekend. I'm like, and every week it gets worse, doesn't it? It's Wednesday then Tuesday, and I can't focus on work stuff. It's just terrible. But so it's almost, but now I'm just worried about players being international duty, so that's frustrating. We've obviously been able to keep our Brazilian trio and the Brazilian Ben White, because he ain't going to play for England again under Southgate, and a few others back. But obviously, there's certain players that it's just difficult to do. We've got captains all over the place with Zinchenko and Odegaard. They're not going to be able to be kept back. Saka's basically the best player England have got, let's be honest. And so it's different. I see the difficulty. My dad was texting me the other day, and he texted what you said. He said, "We're idiots. We are idiots. Why aren't we doing what City and United are doing?" I went, I agree, but I don't think it's always that simple. You have to look at each individual case. But let's just hope the international international managers are sensible in this absolute joke of a period for an international break. I just think it's ridiculous. But we always do predictions, Adam. I know we're about a week or over a week away from the Leeds game. I'm going to it. I'm flying over. First game going to it 4 years or so. So hopefully I'll bring us some luck. Adam, we usually do predictions and first goal scorer. If you're comfortable doing that, go ahead.
I'm going to go confident. I go into every game very confident until it comes to the day, and then I start absolutely bricking it. So, but yeah, I'm enjoying the running as opposed to the other way around. But I'm going to go 4-0 Arsenal.
Jeez, you're like Neil. First goal scorer?
So yeah, Martinelli.
Did we get Palace right? You usually say a 4-1, Neil. Did you say anything like that for Palace? I didn't really listen back. I have to check, but I said 2-0. I think I got it wrong.
Did I say 4-0? I can't remember.
Yeah, you probably would have said
3-1. It might have been 3-1, but I can't remember.
I don't recall a 4-1. So, okay, 4-0 Martinelli. That's very confident, madam. Try to beat that, Neil.
I can't beat that. You stole my thunder, Adam. I'm normally a 4-0, but no, I completely get what you're. Look, Leeds was probably arguably our toughest game in the whole season, even though we've had a couple of losses to other teams. I think Leeds away was a tough one, and again the irony there, because normally on our away travels we've been so strong. So we were lucky we were still lucky to get that win against Leeds. Very lucky, actually. That was probably our worst game in a lot of ways.
That second half was horrible.
Yeah,
really.
So I just hope it's nothing like that. We need every win, maximum points that we can get now, especially against the teams like that at our manor. Essentially, I think we just have to win big. I really do, and I'm with Alan, but we always try and be a bit different. So I'll go 3-0. Who did you say would score, Adam? Did I miss that? Martinelli. Okay. 3-0. I'm going to say 3-0 Trossard.
Like it.
He's due a goal.
Yep. He is. I'm going to go. I think Leeds are a tough team because they've got some really fast players as well, and they're definitely, and they're in a little bit of form as well. I think they've scored 6 in their last two at Brighton and 4 against Wolves, wasn't it? So they're definitely a little bit dangerous. I'm going to go. I think we'll win. I think 2-1. I'll go 2-1 Arsenal, and I'll say Jesus first goal scorer. I'm just thinking because he's not going in the international break. Trossard is. I'm wondering whether that's the point where he gets his first start. I might be wrong there. I could definitely be wrong there. But let's hope Saliba's back for that one. I'm thinking no news is good news for that. So let's keep our fingers crossed. My goal was to finish at 8:15. I'm almost on the money. So let's go. Adam, thank you so much. Anyone that listening, we're on YouTube at Purely Arsenal. We're at Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP. We are on Spotify, your Apple podcast apps, all the good apps, and some of the rubbish ones as well. At Adam Keys _ and at Gooner_70NS. Did I get those right? I did get those right, didn't I? Oh, well done. There you go. On Twitter. Not that you boys need to follow it. I should be putting my one up there. I've got that one. No one's following me. Most people are blocking me. But appreciate you boys coming on. Hopefully Adam will get you on again whenever you've got time. Love to get new guests on here. And you're a great one I've talked to for too long on Twitter, to be honest. It's good to chat to you in person. So I really appreciate it. I know you guys are getting up early in the morning, so I appreciate it. Let's 10 games to go, one game at a time.
Down to you, Jack, the next game. Right, it's on you.
Yeah, I don't want to see. That's what I don't like about it. I don't like the pressure, to be honest. To be honest, I'm worried my brother ain't got me a ticket, but he keeps telling me, I got it, don't worry about it. I'm like, I don't know how you got a ticket. I'm hearing from Silver members they can't even log on, so I don't know how he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'm like, all right.
I'm checking the ticket exchange every day for Leeds.
It's crazy, isn't it, Adam? It's just crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. I've got a few calls in with people that have sorted me tickets in the past as well, and
yeah, I'm
just hoping it's same. I got a call at 11:30 on Sunday morning saying someone had a spare, but Brilliant. For me getting down, it's like about 2.5 hours, so I couldn't make it.
That's almost the best way. I had a friend come over from about a month ago, so we're digressing. But and he went, "How can I get a ticket for the Arsenal?" I went, "Good luck, mate." And I went, I said, "I'll have a look for you." So I had a little scroll, found that Jeff Arsenal on Twitter, and I linked him to him, and he got him tickets. And I went, maybe that's the best way now. And I don't know Jeff Arsenal personally, but I just gave him the link. I said, I think he's a legit guy because I see him selling, and he's got a big following. And he came through for him. And that's sometimes my brother trains Arsenal players' hairdresser. That's how he gets them apparently. differently. I'm like, okay, but it's annoying, isn't it? If you're a member and you've been there so long, but again, it's in a time that
it's okay though, guys. It's okay because we have to make way for people like Kim Kardashian to go with her family. That's more that is more important in this world that we live in. So
do you know
let
what?
us all bow, and you take our tickets. Don't worry about it.
Do you know what? Yeah. I don't care if Brad Pitt, George Clooney's there at the final whistle on the final game. If we win the league, I'll take being 50,000 miles away from it, just as long as I can see it on a screen. You know what I mean? But
100%.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. These are the moments that you've spent so long, and you go the good and the bad times. I completely get where you're coming from, and it sounds very, very frustrating. And I'm from afar, so I shouldn't really comment anymore. So, but boys, thank you so much for being on the pod. This will be out soon. I know our editor's super busy, but it'll be out hopefully within the next 24 hours, and we'll be back after the Leeds game. Thank you, boys. Keep it Arsenal. Keep the faith. Come on, boys.